Hey guys, Joe here. Today we're looking at another Wurkkos light. This time it is the HD12. This is a little bit different than the last one we looked at, the HD01 Pro. Link to that first impressions video up above and down below. This is more of an outdoors oriented light. It does come with a headband for trail runners and all that stuff. We'll talk more about that later. But this is something that I think could be multi-purpose, kind of like how I mentioned that the HD01 Pro could be an emergency light. I think this could shine in that kind of area, as well as do double duty as an EDC light. This is also something that's going to be a little bit more affordable than the HD01 Pro. In fact, like half the price at around the $30-ish price point. But before we really get into it, we got to remind everybody this was sent to us for review, so it's probably the best one they had on the shelf that day. They also sent me a second one to give away for testing, so I gave that to someone else, and we're going to compare notes for the long-term review in a couple months. So we just want to make sure that I'm not being biased. I might be more inclined to give it a favorable review, but I'm going to be, as impartial as always, or at least I will try to be. So getting into this is a pretty interesting light. It is no muss, no fuss. I'm someone who is not a flashlight nerd. I don't need rainbow RGB lighting. I am not a gamer bro. I just want to see what I'm doing, and ideally if it has a red light, even better. And this has something really cool with the red light that most other lights don't, which is why I quite enjoy it. Getting into the size of the light, it's about just under a half, I'd say 3 3/4 of an inch long, but it is about, maybe even 3/4 of an inch in circumference as well. We compare this to my microstream there, quite a big difference in that dimension, even though the microstream is longer. And the reason for that is because it doesn't only have a removable rechargeable battery, a 14500, I do believe. It can also take AA's, and that is awesome. In all my emergency bags and outdoors bags, I have these little battery holsters, I guess is the best way to put it. And that allows me to, if I'm in an area where my power bank really needs to be preserved for something else like my phone, I can use those batteries in my dual fuel lights to make sure everything is running smoothly. Maybe I'm really far out in the woods. I might not be around somewhere where I can recharge. I forgot a solar panel or whatever. Or say it's an emergency and I can't use conventional electrical methods to recharge the rechargeable. I can switch to those immediately and be good to go and keep my power banks for the important things like my communications equipment and whatnot. So I think it's really cool. I think dual fuel lights need to be more of a standard nowadays. We've got the technology. There's no reason not to do it, especially for outdoors lights and emergency lights, which I think this really shines at. Having the ability to do rechargeable, replaceable, rechargeable, and conventional batteries is just excellent. And this has the ability to do all three things. Really, really cool. This can come apart in two different ways. I think this is also for like warranty repair. You can twist it off at the top so they can maybe replace the head for you and you can keep the body, but you can also pull out the battery through the magnetic tail cap. And as I mentioned in the HD01 Pro video, having a magnetic tail cap and a 90-degree light is amazing in an emergency scenario or a nighttime educator scenario. Say you're doing, camping education, woodland education, or anything like that. You can stick this on a metal signpost, bench, or whatever, turn on that side light and flood a huge area to be able to do your instruction, medical treatment, or whatever. Now this has very simple modes. This is not going to be very confusing. It doesn't have anywhere near the amount of clicking that you have to go through like the HD01 Pro. You have a press and hold to go into moonlight mode, and this is a true moonlight mode, very, very dim. You click that off, and then you click to go into the memory mode. You have a low, a medium, and a high, and it will remember that. So if I turn it off, it goes right back into high. That is excellent, and you can go back down, turn it off, remembers that as well. I think that is awesome. There's still lights on the market for whatever reason that make you sit there and run it for like 3-4 minutes, sometimes like 5 minutes to get it to memorize. There's absolutely no reason to do that in 2025, so having that kind of programming is excellent. Now, if we want to double click, that immediately takes us into turbo, but keep in mind with all lights, including these, the turbo is going to be very much a limited thing. It'll step down after like 2 or 3 minutes and not be quite what it says on the package. And then going from the off position, we can triple click and go into the red light. And this is where we have something really cool. And in fact, I'm going to turn off my little lights here so I can show you that. Most lights, you just get a red. That's it. But this has a moonlight red, a medium red, a high red, and then if we bring it back down to the triple click, it has a memory red, and then if we are just on any of the reds, we double click, we have an emergency strobe red. That is ridiculously cool to me as an outdoorsman. Maybe I'm just a dinosaur and I haven't been keeping up to snuff on the flashlight tech, but I haven't seen a light that does multiple levels of red light, a blinking red light, and memorized multiple levels of red light. That is just so cool to me personally. That is incredibly useful. If I want to just be by myself, I can go on the lowest setting. If I've got a group and I'm leading the group, it's beneficial for me to have that bigger, more flooding red light. I've tested it outside and it was excellent. We're going to show some of that footage when we do the review. But I think that's really cool, especially on top of that magnetic tail cap. If I'm doing like a nighttime navigation course or something, I can stick this on a sign or whatever metal thing is around me, do that big red flood, and we can all do our maps together in one little area without everyone having their own lights on, burning their own batteries. There's no reason for that when I can just do it with this. Very, very cool. And so I really like those lights. It's, nothing crazy, but it has everything I would want on a light. The only thing I could think that they could do to improve this would be maybe to move the battery to the side and have a forward facing light, and that would be it. That way you could use it, from this position or in this position. But, you can't have everything be perfect. But this is pretty darn close for an outdoorsman light. You can have the pocket clip to put it on your shoulder strap or whatever, even in just a jacket pocket. But you do also have this headband, and it uses an O-ring system. They give you replacement O-rings for this as well as the light itself. And in terms of how this works, it's a little bit clunky when I have the pocket clip on, but you can see on the outside here, reflective stuff. I just have it on here so you can show you. This goes right on the back side of this. There's no extra padding anywhere on here, but it allows you to put it on wherever. And then on this side, you have a little recess where you can put the light, and that's where the pocket clip becomes a little bit of a problem. But you can just take that off if you're only going to use it as a headlight. You can kind of work this in here. The O-ring kind of fits nicely in the grooves there, almost like they designed it like that. And so you can shift to be straightforward, down. It holds its place. I've jumped up, jumped down, run around, all that stuff, and it stayed in place just fine. I was never worried about it. You can see it also has cutouts there to move the light into the upright position if you would like that for whatever reason as a light, or maybe you have something very similar in strap width that you can strip this onto. I wouldn't quite say this is MOLLE compatible. This is a little bit different. It's just a hair smaller than 1-inch webbing, so you could probably force this onto a MOLLE bag. That's my next thing I got to test out, but I wouldn't get it specifically for that. I would get this as something to put on your pocket, something to put maybe on a hat, on a visor, on the headband, or your own custom headband that you have. That's really what it's for. But I think for an outdoors light, in terms of also being able to do an EDC, an emergency roll, being fairly affordable at $30, being able to do dual fuel, replaceable rechargeables, as well as AA's, that's really, really cool. And so we're going to keep testing this. We're going to see if anything goes wrong over the long term, but I'm very, very happy with this. At that price point, I would buy this on my own if I had known it existed beforehand. This is basically exactly what I want in an outdoors light. No muss, no fuss, all the features that are necessary, none that aren't. And the fact it has that red light that you can just do up, that just tickles me pink. That is so helpful as an outdoorsman, especially since you can double click to also do a strobing kind of medium high light as well. Maybe to set on the back of something while you're working, or if you want to set it on the side of the road to let people know you're there working on your bike or sitting there, just to give a little bit better visibility. That is really cool. So we'll keep testing this. We'll report back eventually. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, please feel free to let me know in the comment section down below. Until next time, stay safe, stay informed. Toodles.